Hello, everyone. Episode 6, Season 3. Don't worry. I know you're all worried. Don't worry. Stop worrying. Okay. This episode has been also marked explicit. So just stop worrying that I cleaned it up. I didn't. Don't worry. This episode, we take a quick, we do a Bank of Canada Quickie because I do not want to talk about that for a long time. I do way too much of it. Did you know that my highest grossing TikTok and Instagram videos are actually Bank of Canada and me talking about Tiffy Boy? Small shout out, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you follow me there. SG Mortgage Advice for both. We talk about the shopping bonanza that is the malls in Canada right now. I don't know if anyone knows that a recession is coming. Who are the people who are renting? We need to talk about this because we are becoming a nation of renters, to quote the nice people at RBC Economics. December 15th is not just the 10-day mark before Christmas. It's when the folks at Bank of Canada get together at their local Tim Hortons and they move Timbits around and try to figure out what the stress test will be, can't be, and how they're going to mess with us some more. And my final kind of rant is, are homeowners going to be considered kings and queens one day because they have something nobody else can afford? We talk about that. Without further ado, here's Steven.
Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. Finance, life, business, and everything in between. And now, your host, Stephen Green.
Hello, everybody. Season 3, Episode 6. Let's get right to it. Let's start with the one thing everybody's talking about, but seriously, I want to talk about this for like a minute or two and just move on. So, my BFF Tiffy Boy up at Bank of Canada, in his infinite wisdom, has raised the prime lending rate by 50 basis points, otherwise known as 0.5%. Not a major shocker. I think people were hoping for 25 basis points, and it ended up being 50 basis points. Fair enough. Could have gone either way. The markets really didn't react to it because I think these sort of things have been baked in already. But, I see a lot of clients, folks. I'm telling you, I have a feeling there's some denial out there. I don't know if you've been to a mall lately, but you would have no idea there's a recession happening. I'm sure it's already happening or going to happen. I see the longest lineups at Starbucks. I'm like, seriously, guys? Like, recession coming, And I know people have their, let's call them addictions or their vices or whatever, but I just have a feeling Canadians are in denial, And I'm not saying, hey, don't buy stuff, whatever, but guys, I think we see what's happening in the economy. Make sure that you're budgeting accordingly. So I don't know if we're going to have something in January. Who the heck knows? But nothing shocking with this announcement other than, like, seriously, man, it's freaking Christmas. We've never had a rate increase in the month of December, ever in the history of our history. And you do it to us? Man, come on. What are we talking about here? Anyway, let's just stop talking about the Bank of Canada because I'm going to have to mark this episode explicit again if I start cursing and swearing. Moving on. Let's talk about an article that came out from RBC Economics. And if you want to get some great information from a credible source, rbc.com/economics. And I'm telling you, pictures, graphs, some great information from arguably, I'm sure it's not arguably, but I'm sure it is true, a fantastic resource and folks that are professional, know how to present, etc. So, article that just came out just this past week. Is Canada becoming a nation of renters? Yeah, you think? Listen, it's very simple. People cannot afford to buy a home right now. We have a combination of homeowners not wanting to sell, right? Maybe they can't get what they want. Maybe they're holding out for a certain price, whatever the case may be. Maybe I was talking to a realtor recently, and she said people don't want to move because they have a great rate. So why would we even bother moving? We'll just leave everything as is and just enjoy our life. So you got people not wanting to sell, people who can't afford homes because incomes have nowhere near caught up with the affordability percentages. We have builders canceling projects, and then we have record immigration, 280,000 people in Q3 alone. Like that puts us on pace for over 1 million. We have nowhere to put people anymore. So it's not a shocker that all of a sudden we have people who are just renting. And I mean, there's a bunch of numbers here, but let me just summarize. The biggest group that's renting right now are the millennials. Every age category is up. Everybody's up. There's just more people renting right now. But again, no shocker. It's probably the millennials, and it is millennials that are renting the most. And the article goes on to say that they are going to rent for longer. I heard a statistic that when COVID hit, the millennial generation had their income earning years stunted by at least 10 years. And I believe that. Okay. I have two kids, 19 and 21. I can believe that. Right. It also goes on to say that millennials are probably going to be the first generation to be the slowest to own homes. So baby boomers, they definitely bought their homes quick. Gen X, same thing, but the millennials are just going to be slower. And listen, you got to understand, and I'm trying to impress this upon clients, realtors, folks that I work with. You make $100,000, you can't afford 700,000 anymore. Roughly, if you make about, call it 150,000 in household income, your max affordability is roughly maybe a 650 purchase with 20% down, maybe 650, 700, in that range. So people are so used to moving into their dream home right away, yet they have to understand that, you know what, you may need to rent for a little longer, save up some money, and get the starter home. The starter home you're not going to love and enjoy right off the bat, but start paying down some of your equity, right? Build a relationship with a bank. Do stuff like that so that you can later on get into your dream home with the white picket fence and the 2 dogs and the 2.6 children with 2 cars, etc. So there definitely has to be a mind shift with this millennial generation. So great article. There's definitely some more details within this article. I'd encourage you to, again, go rbc.com/economics. And the article is called, Is Canada Becoming a Nation of Renters? Moving on to the next problem in the economy. Talking about consumer spending, let's talk about Christmas edition consumer spending tracker. What could be more exciting? So again, rbc.com/economics talks about the fact that there's been really no erosion, is the technical term, to holiday spending. So if folks are out there, right? They went out there and they spent money on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? You know, it goes on to talk about the fact that even jewelry sales have maintained where they've been in the past. Now, the one thing that's really interesting to talk about is that back in 2018, online sales accounted for about, I'm going to say about 25%, whereas in person was about 75%. 2020, pandemic year, more online than in person, everything was closed. Now in 2021, it's pretty much even. So where that's really interesting is we talk about small businesses, and I'm not talking major franchises, like some of the big stores, right? But I'm talking about ma and pa shops and online shopping being so big now. So that impacts our economy as well when we don't have people going out there and buying stuff, right? So we're gonna have to see what happens. I'm truly worried after seeing what the malls looked like. We've already got record debt to income ratios. And if rates are going up and people are still spending either at the same levels or more, we're going to have to see what happens in the new year. We might be doing a lot of debt consolidation loans or refinances for people. And let's take a quick time out to talk about our sponsor. Gotta pay the bills, folks. Top Consulting is the newest and greatest in your business growth plan. Top Consulting brings a combination of individual goals, accountability, and the most important thing always forgotten about, execution, and combines them with what your business goals are. It's not as simple as here's my goal, go get it. It's about what is the goal? Is it the right goal? What does the goal look like? How are we going to get to the end result? Top Consulting, we start at the end and work our way back, making sure we have proper milestones and execution timelines for you to get where you are right now with your business, right to that end goal that starts at the beginning. Top Consulting, make sure you visit topconsulting.ca, where you can get some great information on our programs, complimentary webinars, and hey, don't take my word for it. Have a look at the homepage for real client testimonials. Oh, and just to make sure you really do go to the website, make sure you mention the Green Effect podcast and you get 25% off the introductory fit assessment. Go get them. Final topic for the day. Let's talk about a combination of a few things I'm going to throw into one. December 15th is kind of going to be an important day. Federal government is getting together to decide on what they're going to do with the qualifying rate and the stress test. So let me explain this. So when you go to get a mortgage, there's two rates involved. One is the contract rate, one is the qualifying rate, otherwise known as the stress test. The contract rate is your real rate. It's the rate you're going to actually pay for your mortgage. So for example, I'll make up some numbers, 5-year fixed rate, 5.5%. However, that's not the payment we use to determine whether or not you can afford your mortgage. We use what we call a qualifying rate. So the qualifying rate has to be either 5.25, which is also set by the government, 5.25, or your contract rate plus 2.5%. So if you're getting a fixed rate mortgage of 5.5%, your qualifying rate is either 5.25 or 7.5%, whichever one is higher. So you can probably imagine we haven't used 5.25 for a little while now. So they're meeting on the 15th to determine what do we do with this stress test. Like, do we have to go, contract rate plus 3%? Do we eliminate it completely? So there's some things here where we've got to determine, or the government's got to determine, what the hell's going to go on going forward, right? What is going to happen? What's Tiffy going to do here? Are we going to keep going with these rate increases? Is inflation there? Do we need to come up with a plan to allow people to actually get into the market to reboot this thing a little bit? So we're going to have to see what happens with this, but it's one of those things where I think we still need some, please don't delete the episode or give me a 1-star rating because of this, but I still think we need something to protect Canadians. Sorry for saying this as well, but to protect Canadians against themselves. Okay. because we still have access to debt that's off the charts. You can be unemployed and get a line of credit. So I still think we need something, because here's what's happening, folks. As I talked about earlier, we are creating a supply and demand issue. Creating it. My guess, coming into the spring market, I think we are going to be busy. We're creating a supply and demand problem for all those reasons I mentioned earlier. So if the government needs to reboot this thing, do we rejig the stress test just enough to get it back into line to get a few more people buying homes? Or do we just keep ramming people's head against the wall, jack up, as I talked about earlier, the number of renters, and just see how the cookie crumbles? Listen, if I'm a betting man, I don't have any faith in the government anymore or the Bank of Canada. I'm pretty sure there's some rock, paper, scissors going on somewhere in a back room. I'm one more thought. I got to get this one off my chest. I'm a real estate investor, and I know through this whole fiasco this year, the ma and pa type real estate investors who maybe have one or two rentals or whatever are just taking a shit kicking. There you go. The episode is now explicit. But they've taken on the brunt of people being angry. Well, when we have a nation of renters, all these people coming to Canada, people who can't afford things, I have a gut feel that over the next couple of years, if you're someone who owns real estate, you're going to be like a king or queen. You're going to be considered upper class. You have something that nobody else can afford. And this is a scary, scary thought. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because, again, I heard one person say that home ownership should be more of a right than something that people can't get. To that, I say, man, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. It'll never happen, but it would be amazing. So it's a crazy market. There's a lot of unknowns, which is scary. Let me know if you went to school for post-pandemic economics, because you could make a lot of money right now. So, folks, I would love to hear your opinions. Mark them down in the comments on social media. Listen, a 5-star rating and you guys subscribing to my podcast would just mean the world to me. Reach out if you have any questions. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Green Effect Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Google Play so you catch the next episode. And don't forget to leave a review. Much appreciated.